My mother-in-law hated me. When she died and left me a single key, I thought it was her final taunt. It was not a taunt. It was a weapon. That key unlocked a beach house I never knew existed, and the secret life my husband was hiding. He thought I was at a conference. He did not know his mother just handed me the map to his destruction. My name is Eliza. I am 35 years old, and I am a professional fundraiser for one of the largest nonprofits in Boston. My job is to sit in quiet, expensive rooms and convince people who have everything to give some of it away. I am used to tension. I am used to reading the air. But the air in this room was different. It was suffocating. This was the lawyer's office. It was small, paneled in a dark, thirsty wood that seemed to pull all the light from the single window. I sat on a hard leather chair, the kind that squeaks when you move, and I was not allowed to move. I was here to listen to the last will and testament of my mother-in-law. Beatrice Vance, beside me, my husband, Marcus, held my hand. His grip was a performance. It was meant to look like support, like the shared grief of a devoted son and his loving wife. But I had been married to him for 5 years. I knew the difference between support and possession. This was a grip that said, "You are mine, and you will sit here and play your part." I was playing my part, the quiet, dutiful daughter-in-law. It was a role I'd never been convincing in, mostly because Beatrice had despised me from the first moment we met. I was not from the right family. I did not have the right last name. I worked for charity, which she found dreadfully sentimental. In her eyes, I was a common, grasping mistake her son had made. Her death 2 weeks ago from a sudden stroke had not left me sad. It had left me hollow, and strangely on edge. Mr. Abernathy, the lawyer, was a man who seemed to be made entirely of beige wool and old paper. He cleared his throat, the sound like a dry leaf scratching pavement. "We are gathered," he began, his voice a monotone, "to read the last will and testament of Beatrice Alistair Vance." Marcus squeezed my hand. I stared at a crack in the plaster ceiling. I knew what was coming. Beatrice had spent the last 5 years making it painfully clear what was coming. "To my beloved son, Marcus." Abernathy read, "I leave the entirety of my estate, the house on Beacon Hill, the contents of my brokerage accounts, all checking and savings, and all personal effects, furniture, and art." A clean sweep, exactly as predicted. Marcus let out a small, sharp sigh, the perfect sound of a grieving son accepting a heavy, multi-million-dollar burden. I felt the corner of my mouth twitch. Of course, it was always all for Marcus. Abernathy shuffled a single, separate sheet of paper. "That concludes the primary bequest. However, there is a final codicil, added 3 months ago." Beside me, I felt Marcus go perfectly still. His hand did not move, but the pressure on my fingers increased. A codicil Beatrice was not a woman for afterthoughts. The lawyer looked up, his gaze finding me over the top of his reading glasses. "This codicil pertains to Mrs. Eliza Vance." My blood went cold. Marcus's thumb dug into my knuckle. "It reads," Abernathy continued, "to my daughter-in-law, Eliza. I leave one item. It is the key to safe deposit box number 417 at the Seaport Mutual Bank." The silence that followed was absolute. It pressed in on me, heavier than the dusty air. A key, not a painting, not a piece of her antique jewelry, not even a token sum. A polite 5-figure get-out-of-my-family check. A key, to a bank I had never heard of. It was the most Beatrice thing she could have possibly done. A final, dismissive errand. A perfect, polished insult, delivered from the grave to remind me I was worth nothing more than a chore. Marcus was the first to move. He dropped my hand and let out a short, sharp laugh. It sounded completely wrong in the tiny room. "A key," he said, turning to me. His face was a mask of strained amusement. "That is classic Mom. Her last little joke. God, she had a dark sense of humor." He waved a dismissive hand toward the lawyer. It's nothing, Mr. Abernathy. Probably an empty box she forgot about 30 years ago. Some old car title. He turned back to me, his supportive husband smile clicking back into place. It looked like a grimace. Eliza, honey, just toss it. It's not worth the trouble. Seaport Mutual. That's in the old district. It's miles from here. Just let it go. Mr. Abernathy said nothing. He simply reached into a desk drawer and produced a small, tarnished brass key on a plain metal ring. He slid it across the vast, empty expanse of the desk. It stopped inches from my hand. No, I said. My voice was quiet, but it sounded loud to my own ears. Marcus's smile froze. What? I'll take it, I said. I leaned forward, my back protesting the stiff leather, and picked up the key. It was cold and solid in my palm. I'll go. Eliza. Don't be ridiculous, Marcus hissed, the amusement gone. You're busy. I'm busy. It's a waste of time. It's exactly what she wants, for you to run around on her wild goose chase. She left it for me, I said, my voice flat. I was not doing it for Beatrice. I was doing it for me. I would not let her final act be one where I was dismissed, by her and by her son. I would see this through. I would open the box. It is the only thing she left me. I am going to see what it is. Marcus stared at me for a long second, his eyes hard. Then the mask snapped back. He sighed, a put-upon, weary sound. Fine, fine. Whatever you need to do. Love. Just don't be disappointed when it's just an old gas bill. I dropped the key into my purse. The click of the magnetic clasp was the only sound. I lied to get away. I told Marcus I had an urgent donor call I had to get back to the office for. He seemed almost relieved, kissing my cheek and telling me he had to start making arrangements for the estate. His new estate. The Seaport Mutual Bank was not in the new, gleaming seaport, with its glass towers and expensive restaurants. It was in an old, forgotten granite-faced building near the docks, the kind of place that smelled of damp air and old metal. The vault was small. A bored attendant unlocked a grate, led me to box 417, and left me in a small, wood-paneled viewing room with no windows. My hand was shaking as I opened the thin, metal lid. It was not empty. It did not contain a gas bill. Inside, there were only two things. The first was another key. This one was heavy, black iron, an old-fashioned skeleton key that looked like it belonged to a castle. The second was a sheet of thick, cream-colored stationery, folded once. Beatrice's handwriting, sharp and angry as broken glass, covered the page. It was not a letter. It was a warning. Eliza, I know you think I hated you. Maybe I did. But I hate foolishness more. If you're smart, use this. Don't tell him. Address 14 Ocean Drive. Seacliff. I read the note again. And again. My mind snagged on the last word. Seacliff. I grew up in Massachusetts. I knew the Cape. I knew the North Shore. I knew Marblehead, Rockport, Chatham. I had never, not once, heard of a town called Seacliff. And Marcus, my husband of 5 years, the man I shared a bed with, the man who claimed to tell me everything, had never, ever mentioned a beach house. I stood in that sterile, airless room, the iron key cold in my hand. Marcus's voice echoed in my head. Just toss it. It's not worth the trouble. This was not a joke. This was not an errand. It was a test. And a terrifying, cold certainty settled in my stomach. Beatrice had not left me a key. She had left me a weapon. I told my first lie in 5 years of marriage. It felt surprisingly easy. I called Marcus from my car, the heavy iron key sitting cold on the passenger seat next to Beatrice's cryptic note. Marcus, I said, pitching my voice just right, frazzled, professional, stressed. You will not believe this. The Atherton Foundation just had a massive donor pull out in New Hampshire. A complete disaster. They are scrambling. What? His voice was sharp, impatient, not concerned, just annoyed. They need me in Manchester for an emergency fundraising conference. I have to go now. Tonight. Tonight, Eliza. The funeral arrangements are tomorrow. We have my mother's estate to handle. I know, I said, the lie tasting like metal. I know the timing is awful, but this is $1 million pledge. Marcus, I have to fix this. I am the only one who can. I will be back Sunday night. 3 days? That is all? A long, heavy sigh. Fine, he snapped. Fine, go. Be the hero. I will handle everything here. As usual. He hung up. I let out the breath I was holding. Don't tell him. Beatrice's words. The lie was the first lock. The key was the second. I drove north, past Manchester, past any sign of a conference, and then cut back east toward the coast. My GPS was the only thing that believed Seacliff existed. It was not a town. It was a forgotten stretch of coastline 2 hours north of Boston, where the main highway turned inland and the old roads crumbled toward the water. It was the kind of place people left, not where they built million-dollar homes. The GPS told me to turn onto a private drive, marked only by a rotted wooden sign that said Ocean Drive. It was less a drive and more a dark tunnel carved through overgrown, skeletal pine trees. The air changed instantly. It grew heavy and cold, thick with the smell of salt, wet rock, and pine rot. Number 14. Ocean Drive was completely hidden from the road. The pine trees gave way to a small, gravel-strewn clearing that ended abruptly at a cliff. The house was a dark, weathered shingle cottage, hunkered down against the wind, staring at a gray, churning sea. It was not a cheerful vacation home. It felt like a bunker. I parked my car, and the sound of the engine dying was deafeningly loud in the silence. The only other sound was the wind screaming past the cliffs and the distant crash of waves. I walked to the heavy oak front door. The iron skeleton key from the bank felt impossibly old in my hand. I slid it into the lock. It turned smoothly, with a heavy, satisfying clunk. The door swung open onto a dark entryway. The air that hit me was arctic, stale with the smell of mildew, old dust, and something metallic. I stepped inside. Hello. My voice was absorbed by the heavy fabrics. The furniture was all draped in white sheets, a silent congregation of ghosts in the dim light. It was perfectly preserved, a museum of someone's life, but not a home. I ran a finger along a sheet-covered table. It came away thick with gray dust. This place had not been aired out in months, maybe years. I moved through the silent rooms. A cold living room with a fireplace full of old ashes. A sterile kitchen where the appliances were new but had clearly never been used. A dining room table set for 8 people who never arrived. This was not a house. It was a stage. Upstairs, at the end of a narrow hall, I found one door that was locked. It was a modern door with a new, shiny brass lock, totally different from the heavy antique lock on the front door. This was the office. I tried the iron skeleton key from the bank. Of course, it did not fit. The key from Beatrice got me in the house. It did not get me in the secret. I stood there, frustrated, my heart hammering. Why would she lead me here just to lock me out? I looked around the hallway. The only other piece of furniture was a tall, dark bookshelf, sagging under the weight of Beatrice's collection. She was a prolific, if grim, reader. Old hardbacks accounting texts, biographies of ruthless billionaires, financial histories, market analyses, and one book, small and bound in red leather. That seemed out of place. It was worn, the spine cracked. Sun Tzu's The Art of War. I pulled it from the shelf. It was too light. I shook it. Something rattled inside. I opened the cover. The center of the book had been hollowed out. Nestled inside was a small, shiny silver key. A modern house key. A spare. Beatrice, the old auditor. She always had a backup. She always had a contingency. The key slid into the office lock and turned. The room inside was as cold as the rest of the house, but different. It was sparse. A metal desk, a filing cabinet, and an ergonomic chair. On the desk sat an old, heavy laptop. I turned it on. It whirred to life, booting up to a simple, password-protected screen. I tried Marcus. Access denied. Beatrice. Access denied. Seacliff. Access denied. Useless. I turned my attention to the desk. It was locked. All 3 drawers. I pulled, rattling them, but they were solid steel. I was about to give up, to throw the chair through the window, when my fingers brushed something under the lip of the main drawer. It was not a latch. It was a tiny, recessed button, almost impossible to feel. I pushed it. I heard a quiet click from the right side of the desk. A thin panel, disguised as wood grain trim, popped open. It was a secret compartment, just large enough for a few items. My blood went cold. Inside was a small, black ledger, the kind an accountant would use, a stack of 4x6 photographs held by a thick rubber band, and another envelope, identical to the first, with Eliza written on the front in that same sharp, angry script. I tore it open. This letter was longer. Eliza, if you found this, you are smarter than I thought. I will not waste time. Marcus is not the son I raised. He is a con man. He is a predator. I did not realize it until I started looking into my own accounts 18 months ago. He was stealing from me. So I started investigating him. I investigated you. He met you 3 weeks after you inherited your family's money. That is not a coincidence. That is a hunt. Read the ledger. I followed the money. It led me here. It led me to her. Her name is Chloe. My hands were numb. I fumbled with the rubber band on the photographs. They were not old. They were crisp, digital prints, glossy and new. The first one was of Marcus. He was standing on the porch of this very house, the gray ocean visible behind him. He was not wearing the stiff suits I knew. He was in linen pants, his shirt unbuttoned, laughing. His arm was wrapped tightly around a woman, a beautiful, young, blonde woman. The next photo was of them kissing, his hand tangled in her hair. The third was of them walking on the beach, holding hands. I flipped over the last photo. In the corner, printed from the digital file, was a timestamp. It was from 6 days ago, the day before Beatrice died, the day Marcus told me he was in Chicago for a banking conference. He was here, with her, in this cold, secret house. The shock lasted for exactly 10 seconds. It was a physical paralytic jolt, a wave of pure, unadulterated cold that had nothing to do with the temperature of the room. I stared at the photograph of my husband kissing another woman, and I felt my lungs seize. Then, the cold receded. It was replaced by a low, humming vibration. It was not panic. It was rage, but a different kind of rage. It was cold. It was analytical. The fundraiser in me, the woman who analyzed spreadsheets and donor psychology, took over. The wife was gone. I sat down in the stiff, ergonomic chair. I was no longer an intruder. I was an auditor. I opened the black ledger. Beatrice was, above all else, a professional. She had been a forensic accountant for 30 years before retiring, a woman who found stories in numbers. This ledger was her final perfect audit. The handwriting was tiny, precise, and utterly unforgiving. She had been tracking him for 18 months. The first entry was a transfer from her own retirement account, a sum of $50,000. The note beside it read, M. claimed bridge loan for server upgrade at his firm. No repayment. The entries continued, week after week. Small sums at first, then larger. But the real story started about a year ago. A new section, labeled E.K. Estate. My estate. My initials. When my parents died, they left me just over $4 million. I was not a finance person. My life was in the nonprofit world. Marcus had been so kind, so supportive. He had insisted on helping me manage it. He said he would put it with his own family accounts. Let his team handle it. Grow it for our future. I watched, under the weak desk lamp, as my future bled onto the page. Beatrice had documented it all. Small, regular withdrawals. 10,000 here, 20,000 there. A constant, steady drip. Eliza, he is siphoning your inheritance. Her note read on the margin. Every single withdrawal, every last cent, went to the same account. A wire transfer to a corporate entity I had never heard of, Seacliff Ventures, LLC. My blood ran cold. Seacliff. He had named his theft after this very house. Beatrice's notes became more personal. She had not just tracked the money. She had tracked him. April 4th, M. told E. he was in Seattle Tech Conference. GPS tracker on his car shows 3 days at Seacliff. May 19th, M. told E. he was in Miami investor meeting. GPS tracker shows 4 days at Seacliff. August 9th, M. told E. he was in London keynote speech. Flight records show a round trip to Boston Logan, then tracker shows 5 days at Seacliff. Every business trip, every late night at the office, every single time he had kissed me goodbye, his face full of regret that he had to work so hard for them. He had been coming here, to this cold, empty house, to her. My breath was steady. My hand did not shake. I turned the page. I thought I had seen the worst of it. I thought this was a simple, grubby affair, a story of a cheating husband and stolen money. I was wrong. This was not the bottom. Tucked into the back of the ledger was a separate, thin, manila folder. I opened it. Inside was a single, crisp, official document, a photostatic copy of a birth certificate from Mercy Hospital, 2 years prior. My eyes scanned the boxes. Mother's name, Chloe Vance. Child's name, Thomas Vance. Father's name, Julian Vance. I stared at the name, Julian Vance. It meant nothing to me. A cousin, an alias, who was Julian. My mind raced, trying to connect the dots. Chloe Vance, Julian Vance. They had the same last name. They were married. But the photographs. That was Marcus. That was Marcus in the photographs with Chloe. I turned back to the desk. The laptop. The password screen glowed at me. I thought about the names. I typed CHLOE. Access denied. I typed SEACLIFF. Access denied. My eyes fell on the name from the birth certificate. JULIAN. Access denied. I stopped. I thought about Beatrice. I thought about the hidden key. The art of war. She was a strategist. She was leaving me a trail. This password was not for him. It was for her. It was a file system she understood. I tried her password. BEATRICE. Access denied. Then it hit me. Of course. It was not her name. It was her mindset. I typed SUNTZU. Access granted. The desktop was clean. Beatrice did not clutter. There were only 3 files. Finances, 2024. Surveillance logs. And 1 file sitting in the center of the screen. That made my heart stop. It was a PDF document. The file name was Marcus Vance Background Check Final. I clicked it. It was a full, deep-dive background check from a professional investigative firm. It started with his education, his job history, and then it went deeper. I scrolled past the things I knew, down to the section marked Legal Name History. My vision tunneled. I read the sentence once, then twice. Subject Marcus Vance, SSN XXXXXXXX, was born Julian Vance, SSN XXXXXXXXX. Subject legally filed for a name change in Suffolk County Court 5 years and 2 months ago. 5 years and 2 months. I did the math in my head, my mind working like a cold calculator. I had met Marcus 5 years ago. Exactly. I met him 3 weeks after my parents' funeral. 3 weeks after the notices of my inheritance were filed in probate court. I looked at the birth certificate on the desk. Julian Vance. I looked at the background check. Julian Vance. I looked at the photographs of the man I called Marcus. He had not changed his name to escape a past. He had changed it to create a future with me. My marriage was a lie. My name was a lie. He was not Marcus. He was Julian. And that woman, Chloe Vance, was not his mistress. She was his wife. They were married 7 years ago, 2 years before he ever met me. I was not the wife. I was not the partner. I was the other woman. I was the one he was cheating with. I was the one breaking up a family. I was not a victim of an affair. I was the target of a long con. I was the project. I was the Seacliff venture. I closed the laptop. I carefully, neatly, put the photographs, the ledger, and the birth certificate back into the secret compartment. I closed the panel. It clicked shut, disappearing perfectly into the desk. I sat in the dark, cold office for a very long time. The shock was gone. The grief was gone. The woman who had driven up here, the sad, confused wife, was gone. In her place sat Eliza, and Eliza had work to do. I was still sitting in the office, the secret panel closed, when my phone vibrated on the desk. The sudden noise and the dead silence made me jolt. I looked at the screen. It was him. It was Marcus. A text message. "How's the conference going? Love missing you already." A wave of bile rose in my throat, hot and acidic. Love. The word was obscene. He was sitting in our house, the one I paid for, probably texting his wife the same thing, all while his dead mother's will was being processed and my bank accounts were being drained. I took a deep breath. I held it. I let it out. I did not text Julian. I did not text liar. I tapped out a response, my fingers perfectly steady. Exhausting, so busy. These donors are relentless. We'll call you later tonight. Kisses. I sent it. The little blue bubble of my lie sat next to his. This was the new game. He had been playing it for 5 years. I had just learned the rules. I looked at my watch. It was 4 p.m. on Friday. I had told him I would be back Sunday night. 3 days. My lie had bought me 3 days. 72 hours to dismantle a 5-year con. I stood up. The cold, methodical part of my brain, the part that organized $1,000-a-plate galas and tracked multi-million-dollar pledges, was fully in control. I was not a wife. I was a strategist. My first call was to Sarah. She was my deputy at the Atherton Foundation. Brilliant, overworked, and the most loyal person I knew. She picked up on the second ring. Eliza. "What's wrong? I thought you were handling family stuff." "Sarah," I said, my voice low and fast. "I am in serious personal trouble. I am not at a conference. I am not in New Hampshire. I am somewhere safe. But I need a firewall." "What do you need?" She did not ask questions. That is why I called her. "I am officially at the New Hampshire Emergency Conference until Sunday at 9 p.m. I am in back-to-back-to-back meetings. My phone is off. I am unreachable. If anyone calls, especially Marcus, that is the story. You cannot waver from that story. Can you do that for me?" There was a pause. Are you safe?" "Eliza." "I am safe," I said. "But I am not okay. I need this. Sarah, I need you to hold the line." "The line is held," she said, her voice turning to steel. "No one gets through. Good luck. Boss." She hung up, alibi secured. My second call was harder. My hands were shaking again, but not from fear, from adrenaline. I dialed the number from memory. "Ben," I said when he answered. "Eliza." "What's going on? I heard about Beatrice. I'm so sorry. I was just about to call. Are you... Wait. Where are you? This line sounds weird. Ben Jacobs and I had been friends since college. We'd survived brutal economics classes and bad breakups. Now, he was the most terrifying, sought-after litigation attorney in Boston. He was, as his own partners called him, a shark. And I was about to chum the waters. "Ben, I need you," I said. The casual warmth in his voice vanished. Where? A town called Seacliff. My GPS will get you here. It's 2 hours north. I need you now. I'm on my way. What's the case? I need you to bring the best private investigator you use, not the cheap one, the expensive, ruthless, find anything one, the one who digs up bodies. Jesus, Eliza. What? Are you in danger? My life is a lie, I said, the words coming out flat and dead. I just found out my husband is not my husband. He's married to someone else. He's been stealing millions of dollars from me for 5 years. He has a kid, and his dead mother is the one who told me. The silence on the other end was absolute. Ben was processing. He was building the case. I'm leaving my office right now, he said, his voice a different, colder texture. I'm calling Graves. He's my PI. He'll meet us there. Text me the address. Do not talk to anyone else. Do not call Marcus. Lock your doors. Sit tight. We're coming. I hung up. The allies were in motion. Now. The evidence. I went back to the office. I took a high-capacity USB drive from my briefcase. I plugged it into Beatrice's old laptop and began to copy every file. The background check. The surveillance logs. The financials. Everything. While it copied, I used my phone to take high-resolution, perfectly clear photographs of every single page of that black ledger, every date, every transfer, every damning note Beatrice had written. I photographed the birth certificate. I photographed the photos of Marcus and Chloe. I photographed the 2 letters. The digital copies were my insurance. The originals were Beatrice's. I would not disturb her work. When the transfer was complete, I ejected the drive and put it in my pocket. I put the ledger, the photos, and the letters back into the secret compartment. I pushed the button. It clicked shut. I ran my fingers along the seam. Invisible. I wiped down the desk, the laptop, the doorknob, the light switch. I turned off the light. I walked down the dark, silent hallway. I stopped at the bookshelf. I opened The Art of War and placed the small silver office key back into its hollowed-out tomb. I slid the book back onto the shelf, exactly where I had found it. I walked out the front door. I pulled it shut. I used the heavy iron skeleton key and locked it, the clunk of the deadbolt echoing in the salty wind. I walked to my car, got in, and drove back down the dark, overgrown drive to the main road. I parked on the gravel shoulder, hidden by the pines, and I waited. I left the house exactly as I had found it, cold, dark, and silent, a stage set for a ghost. The war had begun. It was almost 9 p.m. when they arrived. Headlights cut through the sea fog that had rolled in, illuminating the gravel lot of the Seacliff Diner. It was the only building with its lights on for 10 miles, a fluorescent box humming in the damp darkness. Ben got out of the car first. He still looked like the college debater I knew, all sharp angles and restless energy, but his suit was expensive and his eyes were tired. The man who got out of the passenger side, Graves, was his opposite. He was big, built like a refrigerator, with a completely unremarkable face and quiet, watchful eyes. He looked like the kind of man you would forget instantly, which was, I assumed, the point. They slid into the red vinyl booth opposite me. A pot of black coffee and 3 mugs already sat on the Formica table. I had not eaten. I was not hungry. Ben opened his mouth to say something condolences. Probably, but he stopped. He just looked at me. Eliza, he said, his voice flat. You look different. I am, I said. Thank you for coming. This is Graves, he said, gesturing to the man beside him. Graves just nodded. His eyes were scanning the diner, the parking lot, the waitress. Let's get to it, I said. I pulled the USB drive from my pocket and slid it onto the table. This is from a laptop in the house. Background check, surveillance, financials, all compiled by Beatrice. I took out my phone and laid it on the table, opened to the first photograph of Marcus and Chloe. This is the physical evidence. Ledger, letters, birth certificate. I have photos of every page. Ben picked up my phone. He scrolled through the pictures, his face getting tighter and paler with every swipe. He saw Marcus kissing Chloe. He saw the timestamp from 6 days ago. He saw the neat columns of Beatrice's ledger. He saw the name Seacliff Ventures. He lingered for a long time on the birth certificate. Julian Vance, he whispered. He finally looked up, his eyes bleak. Bigamy. That's a felony. He's married to this Chloe. 7 years ago. He married you 5 years ago. Your marriage, Eliza, is legally void. I know, I said. This, he continued, gesturing to the phone, is wire fraud, grand larceny, this Seacliff Ventures. It's a shell corp. He's been funneling your inheritance into it for years. Millions. Beside him, Graves had his own laptop open. He had not looked at the photos. He was just listening. Julian Vance, he muttered to himself. Chloe Vance, Seacliff Ventures. His fingers were flying across the keyboard, his face illuminated by the screen. Got him. He's not just a con, Eliza. He's a professional. Got priors in 2 states under different names, but the MO is the same. Marry rich, drain them, disappear. You're just the biggest score he's had. I absorbed this. It felt correct. He's going to prison for a very, very long time, Ben said, his voice like chipped ice. We freeze the accounts. We present this to the DA. He's done. He looked back at my phone. And the will. Beatrice's will. He gets everything. He inherits his mother's estate, and he's stolen yours. He thinks he's set for life. He paused. A crease appeared between his eyebrows. Wait. The will. You were there this morning. Right. At the reading. Yes, I said. Abernathy's office. Marcus held my hand. Beatrice left him everything. She left me the key. Abernathy. Ben looked confused. Beatrice never used a lawyer named Abernathy. Her family has had the same firm, Haversham and Croft, for 50 years. I know them. I've dealt with them. He pulled out his own phone. Did you get a copy of the will? They said it would be mailed, I said. But I took a photo of the signature page when Abernathy stepped out. Just a quick one. I don't know why. Show me. I found the photo. It was blurry, but clear enough. Ben looked at it. He zoomed in on the signature. No, he said. What? That's not her signature. He shook his head, conviction growing. No, I've seen Beatrice's signature. I worked on a philanthropic trust document with her and your foundation 2 years ago. Her B was completely different. That is a forgery. It's a good one, but it's not hers. He was already dialing. Ben Jacobs here. I need a rapid check on a law firm. Abernathy and Associates. Downtown address. And I need to know who the executor of record is for Beatrice Vance. Died 2 weeks ago. He listened, his face hardening. I see. No record. The address is a commercial mail drop. Right. He hung up and looked at me, and his eyes were full of a new, terrifying clarity. Eliza, the law firm doesn't exist. There is no Mr. Abernathy. The diner, the coffee, the buzzing fluorescent light, it all snapped into sharp, terrible focus. The reading, I said. The stuffy room, the leather chairs. Marcus. It was all fake. It was a play, Ben said, his voice rising with angry discovery. He hired an actor. He staged a fake will reading. But why? We stared at each other, the pieces clicking into place at the same second. To control the narrative, I said, the words tasting like ash. To make me believe he was now independently, legally wealthy. To make me believe I got nothing. He didn't just want my money. He wanted his mother's, too. He thought he could have it all. But he didn't get it, Ben said, a savage grin spreading across his face. He wouldn't have to fake a will reading if the real will gave him anything. He faked it because the real one doesn't. He was already dialing his phone again, calling his contact at the probate court. I bet you, he said to me, the phone to his ear. Beatrice either died intestate with no will at all, or, yes, Hello, I need the filing for Beatrice Vance. Yes, thank you. He listened. The grin became a weapon. She did, he said, hanging up the phone and looking at me. Beatrice, that magnificent old woman. Her real, ironclad will was filed 2 days ago by Haversham and Croft. She left everything, every single cent, the house, the stocks, everything. To Marcus, I whispered. To a dog sanctuary in western Massachusetts. Ben said, Marcus got nothing. He doesn't have his mother's money. He only has what he stole from you. Graves broke the silence. He had been hunched over his laptop, the only sound the quiet tapping of his keys. Chloe Vance, he said, not looking up. She's clean, no priors, but she's not just a wife. She's the mechanism. What do you mean? I asked. She's listed as the sole proprietor of the Gallery Vance, on Beacon Hill, high-end, abstract art, very exclusive, very expensive. He finally looked at us. It's a textbook money laundering front. They buy a worthless painting for $5,000, sell it for $200,000 to a buyer, but the buyer is just Seacliff Ventures. The money is washed, cleaned, tax-free. So Seacliff Ventures is the gallery, Ben summarized. Seacliff Ventures is the bank, Graves corrected. The gallery is the washing machine. All the money Julian Marcus steals from you and stole from Beatrice gets funneled to Seacliff. It buys art from Chloe's gallery. The money is now legitimate income for Chloe. They file taxes on it. It's brilliant. Ben was already on the phone again, his voice sharp. I need an immediate ex parte freeze on all assets related to Seacliff Ventures LLC and Gallery Vance. The operator is Chloe Vance. The silent partner is Julian Vance, alias Marcus Vance. This is felony fraud. He listened, his face turning a dark, mottled red. What do you mean, insufficient? I'm sending you a background check. Bank ledgers. What hearsay? He slammed the phone down on the vinyl booth, making the coffee mugs jump. He says we don't have a direct link. Ben spat. Beatrice's ledger proves he was moving his money. It doesn't prove he was moving your money. We're missing the first step, the transfer from your accounts to him. Without that, he's just a man moving his own assets. We can't freeze the accounts. My stomach dropped. Ben, he doesn't transfer from my accounts. I gave him access. I signed a power of attorney, a management agreement. I thought he was investing it. How much? Eliza? Ben asked, his voice quiet. All of it, I whispered. My inheritance, everything my parents left me. It was just over $4 million. Graves let out a low whistle. He hasn't just been siphoning it, I realized, the full, sickening scope of it hitting me. He's been liquidating my entire life. Beatrice only caught the tail end. He's been staging, preparing for a final move. He is, Graves said. His fingers were flying again. He's been moving assets for weeks, converting stocks to cash, moving them from your managed accounts into a single, high-liquidity holding account under his control. He's preparing one final, massive withdrawal, Ben said. He's going to empty the entire thing in one go. When? I demanded. Graves's eyes scanned the screen. Monday morning at 9 a.m. A single, 8-figure wire transfer, the maximum allowed. Monday morning, I repeated, right after I'm supposed to get back from my conference. He wanted me to be home, to be his alibi, to be the grieving, confused wife while he bled me dry and disappeared. He's disappearing, all right, Graves said, his voice flat. He's not just moving the money. He's moving himself. Ben and I looked at him. I've been running his name, and hers, against travel manifests. Julian Vance, Chloe Vance, and one minor, Thomas Vance. 3 one-way tickets, first class. Where? Ben asked. Dubai. Monday night at 9 p.m., 8 hours after the transfer clears. Dubai. A non-extradition country. He would be gone. Untouchable. With my $4 million. I looked at the clock on the diner wall. It was Saturday morning, just after midnight. That gives us less than 48 hours, I said. My voice was calm. The panic was gone. There was only ice. We have to stop that transfer, Ben said, already scheming. We have to get to the bank, get an injunction. No, I said. Ben stopped. No, Eliza, that's your money. We don't have the proof. Remember, we need the account numbers. We need the final destination routing. We need the keys to his kingdom, and we don't have them. I looked at Ben. But I know who does. Graves, I said, turning to the investigator. You said Chloe is the mechanism. She's running the gallery. She's processing the transfers. She has to have the logins. She's the weak link. She's his wife, Ben argued. She's not going to flip. She's his first wife, I corrected him. He's a professional liar. He's lying to me about being at a conference. What is he lying to her about? Does she know about the house in Boston? Does she know he's been living a double life for 5 years? Or does she just think I'm some rich, pathetic client he's stringing along? I stood up, pulling my coat tight. The plan formed. Cold and perfect. He's not just going to prison, I said. And I'm not just getting my money back. They built this empire together, using my family's name as their quarry. I'm not just going to expose him. I looked at Ben, my eyes hard. I'm going to destroy them both. Saturday morning. Ben and Graves were camped out at the diner, digging into the digital infrastructure of Seacliff Ventures. My job was simpler. I had to go talk to the wife. The Gallery Vance was on Charles Street in Beacon Hill, an impossibly charming street of gas lamps and cobblestones. The gallery itself was the opposite of charming. It was a sterile white box, visible through a single, massive plate glass window. The art was what I called money art, huge. Abstract canvases with no soul, just a very high price tag. I pushed open the heavy glass door. A small, discreet bell chimed. The gallery was empty. There was no one at the front desk. The only sound was the faint hum of the air system. In the back, sitting on an expensive, uncomfortable-looking white sofa, was a woman. She was exactly as the photographs had shown, around 30, with effortless blonde hair, wearing an elegant, flowing black dress that did nothing to hide her body. Chloe Vance was, I estimated, about 7 months pregnant. She looked up from her phone, her expression bored, until she saw me. A flicker of recognition, or perhaps Julian had described me. I walked across the polished concrete floor, my heels clicking loudly in the silence. I stopped 10 feet from her. Chloe Vance. She stood slowly, one hand resting protectively on the high curve of her stomach. Can I help you? Her voice was smooth, privileged. I'm Eliza, I said. We need to talk about Julian. A small, perfect sneer formed on her lips. Oh, Eliza. She said my name like it was something she had scraped off her shoe. Right. Julian said you might stop by. He said you were one of his donors, a little obsessed. I'm afraid we're not interested in a contribution. Please leave. The condescension was so thick I could have choked on it. She thought I was a charity case, a stalker. Obsessed, I repeated, keeping my voice level, conversational. That's an interesting word for it. Was he obsessed when he was with me last week, or does he reserve that for you? Her smile tightened. I don't know what kind of game you think you're playing. He told me he was in Chicago for a conference, I continued, taking a small step closer. But he wasn't. Just like he wasn't in Seattle in April or Miami in May. He was here, wasn't he? Or at the Seacliff house. With you. The blood drained from her face. The smugness was replaced by a flash of genuine anger. Who do you think you are? Get out of my gallery? I think, I said, I am his wife. I reached into my bag and pulled out the folded copy of my marriage certificate, the one from Boston City Hall, 5 years ago. I unfolded it and laid it on the white lacquer table between us. Marcus Vance, Eliza Kent. That's me. I am his legal, lawful wife, which makes you— what? Exactly the mistress, the mother of his bastard child. Chloe stared at the paper. Then she did something I did not expect. She laughed. It was not a nervous laugh. It was a genuine, mocking laugh. "You poor stupid thing," she said, shaking her head. She walked behind her desk, pulled open a drawer, and took out her own folded document. She tossed it onto the table on top of mine. "You really should do your research." I looked down. It was a marriage certificate from Clark County, Nevada. 7 years ago. Father Julian Vance. Mother Chloe Renaud. "I'm not the mistress, darling," she said, leaning back, her hand on her hip. "I'm the wife. I've been the wife for 7 years. You're the side piece. You're the affair. You're the pathetic, lonely woman he's been stringing along." I stared at the 2 documents. 7 years. 5 years. The math was brutal. He had been married to her for 2 full years before he ever met me. I was never the wife. I was always the con. She saw the realization hit me, and she smiled, triumphant. "So, Eliza," she sneered, "now that we've cleared that up, get out." She thought she had won. She thought this was about a man. She still had no idea what was really happening. I let the shock settle on my face, let her enjoy it for a moment. Then I looked up, and my expression changed. "You're right," I said, my voice quiet. "You are the wife. He lied to me. He told me he loved me. He told me we were his family." I paused, letting my voice fill with a manufactured sadness. "He told me he was only staying with his sick mother, Beatrice, out of duty, that all her money would be his one day, that it would all be for us." Chloe's triumphant smile wavered. "What? Her money?" I said. "That's what he told you. Right. That he was a wealthy man, that his family had money, that his mother, Beatrice, was leaving him everything." "She did," Chloe said, her voice a little less certain. "The will was read. He's inheriting everything." "He is?" I asked. "That's funny, because I have a copy of the real will, the one filed in probate court yesterday, not the fake one from the fake lawyer he hired." I pulled the second document from my bag, the copy of Beatrice's actual will. "He lied about that, too, Chloe. Here." I tossed it on the table. Page 4. "I leave my entire estate, real and personal, to the Good Dog Sanctuary of Western Massachusetts." She left everything to a pack of stray dogs. She left Julian. She left Marcus nothing, not a cent. Chloe snatched the paper and read it, her eyes flying across the page. This is a lie. This is fake." "Is it?" I said, leaning in. "He has no money. Chloe, he's broke. The house on Beacon Hill goes to the dogs. The stocks, the bonds, all to the dogs." I pointed at the expensive, shapeless black dress she was wearing. I pointed at the diamond earrings in her ears. I pointed at the ugly, expensive painting on the wall behind her. "The money he used to buy you this gallery. The money he's been funding your life with for the last 5 years. The money he's been laundering through this absurd, empty shop. It wasn't his mother's." I let the silence hang, heavy and cold, for 1 second. It was mine. The color drained from her face, leaving her skin a waxy, pale gray. The hand on her stomach tightened, not in protection, but in a sudden, visceral cramp of fear. She was not a partner. She was a tool. She was the washing machine, as Graves had called her, and she was about to be left behind with nothing but a mountain of evidence against her. He wouldn't," she whispered, but the words were hollow. The bravado, the sneering confidence of the real wife was gone. "Wouldn't he?" I asked. I did not raise my voice. I kept it cold and factual. "He's been lying to you every single day for 5 years about me. He lied to you about his mother's will. What makes you think he's not lying about your future?" I took a step closer. She took an instinctive step back, her eyes wide with panic. "He has tickets," I said. "One way. To Dubai. For Monday night." Her face crumpled. "Dubai. He said that was a vacation, a celebration, after the will cleared." "Did he?" I pressed. "Or did he book those tickets, planning to make one final transfer of my $4 million on Monday morning, and then disappear, leaving both of us behind to take the fall, you for the money laundering, me for, well, for nothing, just an empty bank account?" "No," she said, shaking her head, the tears starting to well. "No, he loves me. He's been secretive, hasn't he?" I said, feeding her the truth I already knew. "Controlling, lately, keeping his phone locked, taking calls in the other room." She nodded, a small, jerky motion. A sob escaped her. He changed all the passwords last week. He said it was for security because of the estate. He's been so stressed, so angry." "He's not stressed, Chloe," I said. "He's cleaning house. He's tying up loose ends. And you and I are the last two loose ends." I reached into my pocket and put my phone on the desk. The screen, dark, but the red recording light was glowing silently from the tiny lens. "You have a choice," I said. "Right now, you can help me. You can help me stop him. Or you can go down with him, because when the FBI walks in here on Monday, and they won't see a victim. They'll see an accomplice. They'll see the signature on all the bank documents for Seacliff Ventures. They'll see the owner of the gallery that washed millions of dollars of stolen money." Her knees buckled. She sank onto the white sofa, her hands covering her face as she began to sob, deep, racking, hopeless sounds. "That baby," I said, my voice merciless, "will be born in a state prison, and Julian will be in Dubai, drinking champagne with a new woman, using my money. Your money." "I didn't know," she wailed, her voice muffled by her hands. "I didn't know where the money came from. He told me his mother was difficult, that she controlled the family trust. He said this was just moving his own assets. I didn't know about you. I swear, I don't care what you knew," I said. "I care what you do. Right now, help me take him down, or share his jail cell." She looked up, her face a mess of mascara and terror. What do you want?" "I want the money," I said. "I want access. I want everything you have, the bank logins, the offshore account numbers, the transfer details for Monday, everything." "I don't have them," she cried. "He keeps them. He keeps them on his personal laptop. He brings it here sometimes. He says it's safer than at the house." "Where is it?" She pointed, her hand shaking toward a sleek, minimalist white cabinet against the back wall. "In there. It's locked. I don't know the password." "Get it." She stumbled to the cabinet, punched in a code on a nearly invisible keypad, and pulled out a thin, silver laptop. It was expensive, powerful. Julian's real computer, not the decoy Beatrice had found. She put it on the desk. "I told you. I don't know the password." "I don't need it," I said. I pulled the USB drive from my pocket, the one with Beatrice's files, and handed it to her. "Plug this in." "What is it?" "It's from his mother. Just plug it in and try to boot the computer." She did. The screen flickered to life. Instead of the normal login, a simple text-based menu appeared. Beatrice, the forensic accountant, had been one step ahead. The drive contained a keylogger, a password cracker, but we did not even need it. One of the options read, "Access System Restore Admin." I pointed. "Click that." Chloe's hand trembled as she hit the key. The computer whirred, bypassed the password screen entirely, and loaded the desktop. We were in. Chloe collapsed back onto the sofa, but I ignored her. I sat in her chair. I opened the file directory. It was a mirror of his mind. Investments, Seacliff, gallery ops, and then I saw it. A folder he had not bothered to hide, because no one was ever supposed to see this. A folder labeled Clients. I clicked it. It was not a list of clients. It was a list of women. Each one had her own subfolder. Seattle AW, Austin RH, Miami JL. My heart hammered against my ribs. This was not the first time. This was not the second. He was a professional, a serial predator. I clicked on Seattle AW. Inside were scanned copies of a marriage certificate, bank statements, a file titled Liquidation Schedule, a final transfer of $1.2 million. I clicked on Austin RH. Another marriage, another inheritance. This one was smaller, $800,000. Miami, Seattle, Austin. He had been doing this for at least a decade. Beatrice had been right. He was not her son. He was a monster. I looked at Chloe, who was staring blankly at the wall. Then I looked at the laptop. This was it. This was not just fraud. This was a pattern. This was racketeering. This was a career criminal. I plugged in my phone, stopped the recording, and sent the entire audio file to Ben. Then I started photographing the screen of the laptop. Every file, every name, every dollar amount. Ben, I said when he picked up. I have everything. He's a serial. I have folders on victims in Seattle, Austin, and Miami. Millions of dollars. I'm sending you the photos now. This isn't just hearsay anymore. This is the smoking gun. This is the whole armory. We've got him, Eliza. Ben's voice was grim, but victorious. I'm on with the judge. This is enough. This is more than enough. With this evidence, I can get the global freeze. He's not transferring $1 on Monday. We are freezing everything. Seacliff, the gallery, the offshore accounts, everywhere. Right now. Monday morning, 8:30 a.m. I drove back from the coast, not to the Seacliff diner, but to my home, our home, the beautiful 4-story brownstone in the back bay that I had bought with my inheritance, and then been stupid enough to put in both our names. Ben's global freeze had been executed on Saturday night. The accounts were locked down. Seacliff Ventures was a frozen block of ice. The gallery was flagged. The Dubai transfer, scheduled for 9 a.m. this morning, would fail. Julian was about to wake up and find out his entire empire had just been repossessed. I was pulling onto our street when my phone rang. I smiled. Right on time. I let it ring twice more, then picked up. Marcus, I said, my voice sleepy, as if he had just woken me. Honey, I'm just getting back. I'm almost home. Eliza, where are you? His voice was high, tight, laced with a panic that was so new, so foreign, it was almost comical. This was not the smooth, confident Marcus I knew. This was the cornered rat. I'm on Commonwealth Ave, I said. What's wrong? You sound awful. Something's wrong, he snapped. I tried to buy coffee. My Amex was declined. All of them. Declined. I called the bank. They said the accounts are frozen. All of them, Eliza. Did you do something? Did you change something? What? I filled my voice with perfect, believable confusion. Frozen. That's impossible. Why would I do that? It must be a system error. Maybe because of the estate. Oh, God, what a mess. A system error, he repeated, sounding like he was strangling. A system error doesn't decline 4 different cards. I tried to move money from the holding account. It's locked. Everything is locked. Marcus, just calm down, I said, my voice a soothing balm on his terror. I'm 5 minutes away. Just meet me at the house. We'll call the bank together. We'll figure this out. It's just a mistake. A mistake, he breathed. He was trying to believe me. He needed to believe me. Yeah, okay, a mistake. I'll be right there. I'm coming from downtown. I have to get some files from the office anyway. I knew what files he was coming for, his escape hatch, the fake passports. The emergency cash he kept taped under the desk drawer, his go bag. His plan was disintegrating, and he was coming home to retrieve his last-ditch tools. expecting to find his gullible, confused wife, the one he could pat on the head, manipulate, and pin the blame on. "I'll see you in 5. Love," I said, and I hung up on him. I parked the car and walked up the steps. I put my key in the lock and opened the front door. The house was completely silent. Over the past 48 hours while I was at the conference, I had made other calls. Not just to Ben. I had called a moving and storage company. The best one. The most expensive one. I had walked them through the house via video call on Sunday, pointing. That one. That one. Not that one. That one. The sofa. A $20,000 custom piece. Mine. The 18th century dining set. My mother's. Mine. The entire art collection I had curated. Mine. The rugs. The lamps. The beds. The towels. Everything I had paid for. Everything that was mine. I stepped into the grand entryway. The house was a hollow shell. The hardwood floors were bare, echoing my footsteps. They were scarred with the ghosts of where furniture had once been. The walls were covered in pale squares where paintings had hung. It was vast, empty, and clean. I walked into the center of the cavernous, empty living room. I was wearing my best suit, a dark navy, structured, severe, my armor. I stood by the empty fireplace and I waited. I was not alone. Tucked away in the empty, hollowed-out kitchen, completely out of sight from the front door, were 4 men. Ben, looking grim and energized. Graves, looking bored. And 2 detectives from the Boston Police Department's Financial Crimes Unit. They were silent. They were all waiting for the rat to enter the trap. I heard the sound of a key scraping frantically in the front door lock. He was running. He was panicking. The heavy door slammed open. "Eliza!" he yelled. He stumbled into the entryway, his eyes wild, his expensive suit rumpled. He stopped dead. He stared at the living room. He stared at the empty walls. He looked into the empty dining room. His mind, so fast, so sharp, could not process what he was seeing. "What?" he whispered. "What is this? Where is everything? Where's the furniture?" "I took it," I said. My voice echoed in the huge, empty room. He turned and saw me. I was standing perfectly still, my hands clasped in front of me. "What do you mean, you took it?" he demanded. "It was mine," I said. "I bought it. So I took it back. Most of it, anyway." He stared at me. The panic was being replaced by a dark, cold rage. The mask was gone. The man I was looking at was not Marcus. This was Julian. "What did you do?" he hissed, taking a step toward me. "Where is my money? What did you do?" "I think," a new voice said. "You mean her money." Julian froze. He spun around. Ben walked out of the kitchen entryway, his arms crossed. He did not look impressed. "Who the hell are you?" Julian snarled. "I'm her lawyer," Ben said. "And these—" Graves and the 2 detectives stepped out from the kitchen, blocking the hallway. They were all wearing suits. They all looked official. They all looked very, very serious. Are the Boston police. "Eliza!" "What the hell is happening?" he yelled, his voice echoing strangely in the vast, empty room. "Who are these men? Where is all our furniture?" "It wasn't our furniture. Julian," I said. My voice was calm, and the sound of it, so level and cold, seemed to shock him more than the empty room. "It was mostly mine. I bought it. So I took it back." He flinched. The name. He flinched as if I had physically struck him. He had never heard me say that name before. The wall between his 2 lives had just evaporated. "What?" he stammered, his eyes wide. "What did you call me, Julian?" I said again, savoring the taste of the truth. "That is your name. Isn't it Julian Vance? The one you had before you met me. The one you share with your wife. Chloe." The color left his face. The panic was instantly replaced by a dark, cold rage. "You," he snarled, taking a step toward me, his hands balling into fists. "What did you do? What did you do to our money?" He was advancing on me, his face a mask of pure hatred. He was going to hit me. "I think you mean her money," Ben said, stepping forward, placing himself slightly between us. Julian stopped. He finally seemed to register the two men behind Ben, the ones who were not lawyers. The older detective, the one with tired eyes and a heavy badge on his belt, stepped forward. His voice was bored, procedural. "Julian Vance," he said, not asking, but stating, "You are under arrest for multiple counts of wire fraud, money laundering, and marriage fraud." For 1 second, Julian Vance was completely still. The calculation was visible in his eyes. He wasn't looking at the detective. He was looking past him, toward the front door. He lunged. It was fast, a desperate animal bolt for the exit. He almost made it. He shoved Ben aside, crashing into the bare hallway. He was 2 steps from the door when Graves moved. Graves, who had been standing silently by the doorframe, simply stepped into the middle of the hall. He was, as I'd noted, built like a refrigerator. Julian, running at full speed, slammed into him as if he had hit a brick wall. The sound was a heavy, sickening thud. Julian collapsed onto the bare hardwood floor, the breath knocked out of him. Before he could even try to get up, the two detectives were on him. The click of the handcuffs ratcheting shut was the loudest sound I had ever heard. It was the sound of a 5-year nightmare ending. They hauled him to his feet, his arms wrenched painfully behind his back. He was breathing heavily, his mask of sophistication completely shattered. He was just a common, pathetic thief in an expensive, rumpled suit. He looked at me. He looked right through me. The man I thought I had loved, the man I had slept next to for over 60 months, looked at me with a hatred so pure, so venomous, it made my skin crawl. "You bitch," he screamed, his voice cracking. "You did this, my mother. My mother warned me about you. She told me you were poison." The detectives started to drag him toward the door, but his words hung in the empty air. I almost let him go, but I could not. He did not get the last word. Not this time. I laughed. It was a short, sharp, cold sound. It was not a happy sound, but it was a victorious one. Julian stopped struggling. He looked at me, confused by the laugh. "She warned you about me?" I asked, walking slowly toward him, stopping just out of his reach. "No, Julian, you have it all wrong. She didn't warn you." I reached into the pocket of my suit jacket. My fingers found the cold, heavy iron. I pulled it out. It was the skeleton key, the key to the Seacliff house, the key that started it all. I held it up between my thumb and forefinger, letting it twist slowly in the light from the empty windows. His eyes locked onto it. He knew the key. He knew the house. He finally, in that last second, understood everything. He understood that his mother, the woman he thought he had outsmarted, the woman he had stolen from, had orchestrated his downfall from her grave. "She didn't warn you about me," I said, my voice a whisper that cut through the silence. "She warned me about you." I dropped the key back into my pocket. I turned my back on him. I did not watch them drag him out of the house. I did not watch them put him in the car. Ben put a hand on my shoulder. I shook my head. I did not need support. I walked past the detectives, past Ben, past Graves, and out the front door. I walked down the steps, into the bright, cold Monday morning air. The city was loud. The traffic was moving. The world was exactly as it had been. I stood on the sidewalk, took a deep breath, and for the first time in 5 years, I was free. Thank you so much for listening to this story. I'm curious, where in the world are you listening from? Let me know in the comments below. Share your thoughts, and let's chat. Please subscribe to Lily Revenge Stories like this video, and give it an extra boost by hitting that hype button so more people can hear this story.